right, so we are going to continue looking at evaluating functions in function notation. And so, just as a quick reminder from what we talked about in the last video, okay, I've got g of x is equal to negative 3x plus 1, and I want to know what x is when, or what g of x is when I take, and I have x equal to 3, 0, and negative 2. So for each of these, I'm just going to plug in. Okay, so I'm going to start and solve with when x is equal to 3. So remember, this right here, guys, is just telling me that I have a function g. All right, so I'm going to only work the right side. So negative 3 times 3 is negative 9 plus 1. And negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. So I could say g of 3 is equal to negative 8. Now remember, g of x is the same thing as y. So our y value for this one is a negative 8. And I could write this as a point, 3 comma negative 8. All three of those are the same answer. Okay, so typically I'm going to write it like the top, but be aware you can see it as the others. All right, g of 0. So again, I'm only working the right side here. So negative 3 times 0 is 0. Plus 1. So g of 0 is equal to 1. So we could also say y is equal to 1, or our point is 0, comma 1. All right, so we're going to finally do the last one, g of a negative 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6 plus 1. So g of a negative 2 is equal to 7. Okay? So now let's look at this. Okay, I'm given two functions here up at the top. G of x is equal to negative 3x plus 1, and f of x equals x squared plus 7. And they tell me to find f of 3. So this tells me right here, okay, which function I'm using. I'm using f. So I'm going to take and I'm going to plug in for the x in that function. So 3 squared plus 7. 3 squared is 9 plus 7, and 9 plus 7 is 16. So f of 3 is going to equal 16. Again, I could also write this as a point, 3 comma 16. Most often though, guys, this is the way our answer is going to be written. All right, so it says find g of negative 3. Well, which function am I going to use? Okay, I'm going to use the g of x. So we get negative 3 times a negative 3, which is a positive 9 plus 1. So g of a negative 3 equals 10. All right, so on this one it says, find x if g of x is equal to 16. Now, remember when I said g of x, f of x, what letter did that take the place of? Okay, so this is the same thing as saying y is equal to 16. Okay, so remember I can replace the g of x or f of x with the letter y, and I would still have the same function. So we're using g of x. So we get g of x is equal to negative 3x plus 1. Now we know that g of x, or our y value, is 16. So we're replacing that. Okay. So now I can solve this for x. So first thing I'm going to do is subtract 1 on both sides. I get 15 is equal to negative 3x. Divide both sides by a negative 3. And we get negative 5 is equal to x. So our x is equal to negative 3. Or sorry, negative 5, not negative 3. Again, I could take and write this as a point as well. Okay, my x value is negative 5, and my y value is 16. So that would be the point on a graph that those would cross at. All right, what if we have find x if f of x is 23? Well, which function am I going to use? Okay, I'm going to use the f of x. Okay, so we're going to take and we're going to plug in 23 for f of x. Now I can solve this for x, right? Minus 7 from both sides. 23 minus 7 is 16. Now I have this x squared, right? How do we undo a square? Okay, we take the square root. And the square root of 16 is 4. So x equals 4. Or again, we could write this as a point. Okay. All right, so now let's say I've got a function, c of x equal to 18x minus 10, which represents the cost in dollars of buying X tickets to a Lizzo concert with a $10 coupon. So, how much does it cost to buy 7 tickets? Well, okay, 7 tickets, right? What is that going in for? Well, X represented my number of tickets, right? So all I have to do is plug in for X, and I'm looking at C of 7 is equal to 18 times 7 minus 10. Okay, 18 times 7 is 126 minus 10. So C of 7 is equal to 116. So what does this mean though? Okay. Well, this means it's going to cost me $116. Oops, let me rewrite that. So it's going to cost $116 to buy, oops, cannot spell today, 7 tickets. we'll look at this same kind of function, but this time, how many tickets can I buy with $136? So they're asking how many. Do we know our x? We don't. So what this right here is my c of x. Okay, it's my y value. It's my total amount that I am going to spend. So in my function, I am going to replace the 136 with in place of my c of x. And I can solve that. So 136 plus 10 is 146. Divide both sides by 18. And I get 146 divided by 18 is 8.1 repeating. All right, so what was the question? How many tickets can I buy? Well, I can't buy partial tickets, can I? Remember, this is what we would consider a discrete function. We're buying tickets. So what this means for this problem is with $136, I can buy 8 tickets. All right.